I was 20 years old when this happened. Old enough to feel like an adult, but still young enough to ignore every red flag that should have sent me running. It was the summer before my final year of college, and I'd just landed an internship at a downtown corporate office. Nothing glamorous, mostly data entry, spreadsheets, and pretending to look busy so the supervisors thought I was productive. But it paid well, and at that age, that was enough. There were 8 interns total, and we were packed into a long, narrow office space filled with low cubicles that offered almost no privacy. You could hear everything, typing, coughing, even when someone opened a snack wrapper. Out of the group, most were normal. A couple were friendly. One guy was painfully serious. But the 8th intern, the one in cubicle 12, he became the reason I started dreading going to work. His name was Evan. If you had seen him on the first day, you would have thought he was just another awkward college kid. He was tall and thin, with pale skin and messy black hair, the kind of hair that looked permanently damp even when it wasn't. He rarely spoke, which didn't bother me. Some people are introverts, no big deal. But then, the staring started. At first, it was subtle. I'd feel someone watching me while I typed, and when I glanced up, I'd catch him looking from the corner of his cubicle, then ducking back down like a frightened animal. I told myself it was a coincidence. Offices make people weird. Long hours, bad lighting, it gets to you. But the next day, it happened again. And the day after that. And then every single day. He developed this habit where his head would slowly rise above my cubicle wall, just his head, not his body, until his eyes were looking down at me. The cubicle walls were low, but he was tall enough that when he leaned over, he seemed giant, like some distorted figure looming above a cage. He never spoke at first, just stared, wide-eyed, unblinking, like he was studying me. Sometimes I'd pretend I hadn't noticed, hoping he'd get bored, but he didn't. The longer I ignored him, the longer he stayed there, his neck craning unnaturally, that faint smile carved into his face. One afternoon, while I was typing, I saw a shadow fall across my desk. I didn't even need to look up. I already knew what it was. But when I did, I froze. He wasn't just staring. He was grimming, wide and stretched, like his cheeks were pulled back with invisible hooks. His eyes were too focused, too bright, too excited. And then he spoke. Not in a normal voice, but in this slow, drawn-out tone that felt rehearsed, like he was reading lines from a script only he understood. "Working hard or hardly working?" I forced a laugh. Everyone has awkward coworkers. No reason to panic. But he held the grin. For too long. Way too long.
He didn't blink, didn't move, just kept smiling at me until I finally spun my chair around to face my monitor again. Even then, I could still feel his eyes burning into the back of my head. Over the next week, his behavior escalated. Sometimes he'd show up behind me without making a sound. Sometimes I'd hear him breathing before I saw him. Sometimes he'd whisper random things like, "You type fast. Your hands look tired. I know your schedule." And once, God, I still remember this, once he whispered, "You shouldn't break your routine. Someone might notice." He delivered it like a warning, a threat disguised as casual conversation. I reported none of it. Why? Because at 20 you think confrontation will make things worse. You convince yourself it's harmless. You tell yourself everyone is weird in their own way. But then came the incident in the break room. It was early, too early for most interns. I usually got there by 8:45, but that day I arrived at 8 because I slept badly. I made myself coffee and was scrolling through my phone when I felt it again, that presence behind me. I turned slowly.
There he was, standing in the doorway, not moving. His hair looked wetter than usual. His shirt was wrinkled, like he'd slept in it. And his eyes were bloodshot, as if he hadn't blinked for hours. He stepped inside, letting the door close behind him. "You're early," he said. "Yeah," I tried to smile. "Couldn't sleep." He tilted his head, almost bird-like. "You shouldn't come early." I laughed weakly. "Why not?" His expression didn't change. "Because I'm here early too." He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "Sometimes I forget other people exist," he whispered. "Sometimes it's just me and voices." My stomach tightened. "What voices?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small mirror, a handheld one with cracks running across the surface. He held it up between us, angling it so I could see my reflection. "You look tired. Tired people make mistakes." I swallowed hard, unable to speak. "Don't make mistakes. Not around me." Then he turned and walked out, leaving me alone, shaking, the coffee turning sour in my stomach. I should have quit that day. But internships look good on resumes, right? And I couldn't afford to lose it. The next few days were worse. He began appearing in places he had no reason to be, behind filing cabinets, in empty hallways, once even outside the building's glass lobby door, staring in as I arrived for work. It felt like he was memorizing my routines. And then he started leaving notes.
The first was simple. "I see you." Then, "You shouldn't eat lunch alone." Then, "Why do you walk faster when you see me?" The final one chilled me the most. "I know where you live." That night I slept with the lights on. But the true horror didn't start until the Thursday evening incident. The night only 2 interns were left in the building. Me and him. I had stayed late because my manager wanted a spreadsheet updated before Friday morning. The office was nearly silent except for the occasional hum of the air conditioning. The building felt too big when empty. Every sound.
My throat tightened. "Just finishing work." "Finishing work," he repeated, like tasting the words. "You like routines, don't you?" "I guess. You always leave at 5:02. But today you didn't." His breathing grew heavier. "That makes me curious." I forced myself to turn. He was standing inches behind my chair. Too close, too still. "I need you to do something," he said softly. "What?" He reached into his pocket, but this time it wasn't a mirror. It was a photo of me entering my apartment building from behind. He placed the photo on my desk, then leaned in so close I could smell his breath. "You shouldn't change your schedule," he whispered. "It confuses me." I stood up so fast my chair rolled back. "I'm leaving." He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just smiled. "Good," he said. "I'll walk you out." "I don't need—" It wasn't a question.
He followed me through the office, every step slow and heavy, as if he was enjoying the fear leaking off me. When we reached the elevator, he pressed the button.
Neither of us spoke. The elevator door opened with a ding, and I stepped inside. But he didn't. He just stood there, staring, as the doors began to close. Just before they shut completely, he whispered, "See you at 5:02 tomorrow." I didn't go to work the next day, or any day after. I quit the internship, blocked every number, avoided that building completely. But here's the part that haunts me. 3 weeks later, I woke up to a sound at my door, a soft, slow knock. When I opened it, no one was there. But on the ground was a single piece of paper, a photo, taken from across the street, of me, standing at my window, sleeping lap behind me, curtains half open. And on the back, written in shaky handwriting, "You broke your routine." I moved out of that apartment the next day, and I never saw Evan again. But even now, years later, every time I feel like someone is watching me, every time I hear footsteps behind me at night, every time my phone buzzes with an unknown number, I remember Cubicle 12. And I wonder, what if I never escaped him at all?